All right, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are calling in from. We are so excited to have you. I know a few people are still coming into the room, but we want to respect everyone's time and get started. My name is Christina Clayton. I'm one of the co-directors of the Northwest MHTTC, and we're very excited to have you here. Again, if you have seen Rebekah before, we're very excited to have her present for another awesome session. So just a couple of things just to let folks know. This is We Make the Path by Walking, and mentioned in the chat, we are using Poll Everywhere, so we're trying to help this make it a little bit easier for you. So you'll see a link in the chat for what URL. You can just type your answer in to there, or you can text it, but we're just going to do a word cloud in a little bit, so it'll be a good thing. And just wanted to introduce our speaker and tell you a little bit about our center before we do that. So we are part of a nationwide network that actually has quite a lot of centers. So there's 10 centers and 2 specialty centers across the nation. And so we have the pleasure of serving in Region 10, but the Mental Health Technology Transfer Network, helps do a lot of things. So we provide free training, technical assistance, do webinars, have a website and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that you can tap into, not just from our center, but from all across the nation. And in our center, we are based in Seattle at the University of Washington, and we have a specialty area around evidence-based practices for serious mental health issues. But of course, we work with a lot of different kinds of topics, and you'll see that in all of our announcements. Our workforce is really anyone that works with anybody who is at risk for or has serious mental health conditions or any mental health issues. And so it's anybody and everybody who everyone's welcome. So very excited to have anyone join our events. We want to be mindful of language, and so you're muted and such, which I'll get to in a minute, but just if you do type a question or have anything, we just want to be respectful of people's privacy. If you're talking about something you did in your work setting, and just using kind of person-first language to respect the recovery. Housekeeping, we have tried everything. We've never had an issue yet. Knock on whatever my desk is made of. So if anything weird happens, we will get right back to you, but should be fine. You are muted because we have a pretty big group and your video is off. We are recording this because we do record these and then take a couple weeks to get them prepped and put them up as recordings that you can access later, or people that might be able to access. So just want to make sure you know about that. The slides, same thing. We will get the slides up on our page, and when that's done, you'll be notified by us that the recording is ready, the slides are up, and any resources that Rebekah goes over today will also be posted on that website. We'll put a few things in the chat, but don't want to distract from the presentation. And then certificates. We don't have formal CEUs, but you will get an email from us if you do desire a certificate of attendance. So we have, it's pretty nice looking. Usually people can use these if they need to apply for hours in their respective areas, but we don't have formal CEUs for that. After today's session, sometime during the chat, we will put in a link for our evaluation. And so if you've ever been to any of these before, you've heard the GIPRA term. It's how they measure that you did something with the money they gave you. So, but it's pretty short, takes just a couple minutes. We really actually look at your feedback closely, and it's all confidential. Your name isn't attached or anything like that, but it helps us know, how did this session go? Is there anything you would have liked to have seen more of, or that you really appreciated? Helps Rebekah know how her session went. And so it really is useful. So it doesn't just help our reporting, but it does help us plan future sessions and make sure that we're doing content that you appreciate. And it lets us keep doing these free trainings. So that is helpful. Chat, you're welcome to use the chat. So you are able to chat amongst the whole group, but just, I think, being mindful of, we don't want, too many things getting in the way of your paying attention to Rebekah's presentation. But do want to clarify that chat is not where you want to put your questions. We want to instead have you use the Q&A function on your Zoom bar. So if you have at any point during the session, because she won't be taking questions like along the way, but when we're kind of wrapped up with the formal presentation, we will have time for questions. And so do, as you're thinking of it, just throw something in the Q&A. We will queue those up and get to those at the end of the session. So, oh, I did the thing when I was just talking to you about. Use my mouse and it got all wacky. Here we go. Disclaimer, we just have to put this slide in. Obviously, SANSA has no idea what's actually being said here, and they aren't endorsing or, endorsing the opinions of anything we talk about here, but they trust what we're doing. And now I am so pleased to introduce Rebekah. So some of you may have seen her before, but she's the founder and director of Trauma Integration Programs. I don't even know how to say all the things that you've done, Rebekah, but ambulance paramedic, paramedic trainer, mental health counselor, acupuncturist, East Asian medicine practitioner, specializing in traumatic stress. I know her from our time in Seattle, and you're back in BC now. But you also have this just amazing story of resilience, having grown up on the streets in foster care, and then you've written a book about that, and just a real special person. So I'm so glad that you're able to join us for hearing what she has to say. And before we get to the good stuff, oh, people are already doing it. Wow, that is amazing. So that is great. I don't know why this, nope. I want to go back to the poll. Here we go. Wow. Okay. So if you haven't done it so far, this is, asking what's a word that describes how you're feeling today. I know, I feel like I'm narrating a horse race. We talked about this before in other sessions, that it's responding right in front of your eyes. But it's helpful sometimes to see what other people are feeling, or I'm also feeling drained, or oh, I'm also feeling excited or optimistic. So we're excited to let you do that. So we'll let that go for just a minute or two. So far, Rebekah, we got some pretty positive stuff going on. So that's great. But I hear the blah also in the drained. I appreciate all these things. So perfect. Okay. Well, I think we'll move on, but I appreciate everyone's participation. And this lets Rebekah sort of know, where are we all at today and how can we go forward? So I will stop my screen share and let you take it away. Make sure you get your.
Ta-da! There we go. Yay. Well, first of all, welcome everybody. Let me just start by acknowledging that I live and work on the unceded traditional territories of the Lekwungen speaking people in British Columbia and Victoria, BC. They're the Coast Salish people, and this is their land. I am a visitor here, and I always like to acknowledge that. And so welcome once again. If you've joined me before for one of these sessions, this is the third session of 8. So I'm very grateful to be here with you. And thank you for doing the feeling cloud, the word cloud there. I see that people feel great, which is nice to see. I also see that people are feeling exhausted. I saw heartbroken in there. I saw anxious. I saw tired. And I saw, and you know what? I'm feeling all of those things. In a given day, I swear I go through all of those different emotions. So I understand, and I'm right here with you. Okay. So this, this series, We Make the Path by Walking, I've called it that because we simply are, especially in the times that we're in, making the path as we go. As we put one foot in front of the other, all of us collectively are kind of unfolding our own futures together. And so I like to acknowledge that too. The first broadcast I did here, first session, I focused a lot on grief, and there's a lot of collective grief going on in this country, in the US, in the whole world. And the last session, I focused a lot on fear. So those two things, probably there's a lot of that going on, and for good reason these days. I'm going to invite you on this, to walk with me today to talk about investigating our thoughts. And this is a very tender thing to be working on. So I would like to invite you with me to investigate what you think, how it works in your life, and seeing if there's ways by investigating our thoughts, if we can reduce some of the habits we have in our thinking. And when we do this, we start to notice, oh my God, I have biases, I have judgments. And I thought it was just everybody else who had those, but I have those too. And so we keep examining and looking at these things. And by doing this, we actually can liberate ourselves from some of the ways, some of the beliefs, and some of the biases that hold us back in being open-hearted and actually being effective in helping ourselves and others. So as with all of the things that I teach, I want to let you know that everything that I teach, I use myself. So I'm just paying forward what I've learned and hoping to share it with you today, and hoping that you will also share it forward. And of course, this is going to require open hearts and minds for this. And so, as Christina mentioned, that I am an East Asian medicine practitioner and acupuncturist. So a lot of what I do is seen through the lens of East Asian medicine. So there'll be lots of self-care today. Yes, we're going to be using our minds, but it's always body, mind, and spirit. And so I want to invite you to do this exercise called Yuan Breathing. Yuan is a Chinese word that also means ancestral breathing. And this is a good exercise to do and to share with others when we might be feeling like we don't trust the process of life. We don't trust that we're going to get what we need. And so this exercise is all about breathing. And let's face it, that's one of the most important things that we can do. Our bodies don't share or don't store oxygen. Rather, we have to always replenish that ourselves. So as with all of the self-care exercises, just take a couple of normal breaths and become present with where you're at right now. Feel your seat in your chair, feel your feet on the ground, feel your arms and legs, and see if you can just kind of even close your eyes for a moment. I'm going to close my eyes while I do this exercise, and allow your jaw to kind of relax. And it's interesting, when we relax our jaws, our tongue kind of floats to the roof of our mouth. Okay. So for this exercise, we're going to draw all the breath in, and all the breathing is through our nose for this exercise, until we just fill ourselves with air, and then we're going to let it all out. So I'm going to kind of coach you through it, and we'll do 3 repetitions of this in and out breathing. Okay, so beginning now, just breathe in through your nose and taking a deep breath. And keep your mouth shut all the way through your nose. It's like you're filling your chest, you're filling your belly, you're filling your arms and legs and your head and your hands and fingers and toes. And just stop at the very top of that breath. And now breathing out through your nose, let it all the way out. All the way out, and push it all the way out until there's nothing left for you to breathe out. And pause and notice how the breath comes all the way back in again on its own. So let it fill you all the way up. Arms and legs and fingers and toes, everything's full of air, just blooming like a rose. And now again, allow it all the way out. And push that last little bit out. Empty yourself. And then it comes back in again. Last time, and just fill yourself like you're a tree coming into bloom. All the blossoms pop, 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 pop. And then finally let it all out. Great, and you can just open your eyes. So this kind of breathing, as I said, is a great way to ground yourself, center yourself, and feel that sense of trust in the universe that when all the breath is gone, it's going to come back in no matter what. It's just like the tide. Cool, eh? So as we are talking about thoughts today, we're talking about the mind, and this is just the psycho and psychoneuroimmunology. It's just Rebekah trying to add a little levity to this situation. Last day we did talk about psychoneuroimmunology. It is the science of the body and mind. So psyche meaning the mind, neuro meaning our nervous systems, and immunology meaning our whole immune system and everything that drives that. So this science tells us that what we think makes a big impact on our nervous systems and our immune systems. And so therefore, what we think does make a difference in our health. And if we're thinking negative, anxiety-producing, catastrophic thoughts, our nervous system reacts by bringing in that fight or flight response, and we react to get us out of trouble. So without talking too much about that, if you're curious about what I had to say about it and what other experts like Gabor Mate and Robert Sapolsky have to say about it, you can check out the broadcast, the last broadcast. But you know, the nervous system, when we have this constant activation of our sympathetic nervous system, this fight or flight response, it does cause body reactions, and the elevated cortisol in our bloodstreams causes autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis and type 2 diabetes and Crohn's disease and psoriasis. So just be aware that when we take care of our thinking, we also take care of our bodies. And I always like to quote smart people. Jack Kornfield, old hippie, old Buddhist scholar, and generally just an amazing teacher. And he's still around, and he says about thinking that we encounter the inner soundtrack of our thoughts. As it plays, we can become the hero, the victim, the princess, or the leper, the whole drama department in our thoughts. And its casting director is indiscriminately handing out all the roles of inner dictators and judges, adventurers and prodigal sons, inner entitlement and inner impoverishment. So I don't know about you, but that resonates with me, and I definitely have all of these things going on all the time. And you know, we just keep looking at it, and it makes a difference to how we keep going with those thoughts and those beliefs. So in life, we experience things. We're always experiencing things. And these experiences are where our thoughts come from and our emotions come from about what happened to us. And then those thoughts and emotions turn into beliefs. And the beliefs support our thoughts. You know, we like to be right. Okay, yes, this is what happened. This is what I believe about it. And yes, we try to make sense of it with our beliefs. And then our beliefs turn into whole kind of collections of beliefs, and they become belief systems. And then what we do, we humans, we project it on the world. All of a sudden, what we believe and our belief systems become what we project on the world. That's what the reality is. And that becomes the reality that we live. And let me just tell you, I always like to use personal examples of what I'm talking about. And so as a young child, I was 3 years old when my mother left our home. And so I was left with my father and my older brother, who was 6, and I was 3. And during that time, a little child narcissistically believes when something is wrong with the parent that there's something wrong with them. And so I started to believe at that time, Mommy must have left because there's something wrong with me. I must not be worthy of being loved. And so that belief of not being worthy of being loved is something that I carried through my life. And I started to project that on relationships. Well, if I care about somebody, they're going to leave me. So there's no point in caring about somebody. And in fact, because I believe that they'll probably abandon me, just like I believe my mother abandoned me, then I'm going to beat them to it, and I'm going to leave them before they leave me. And so that made it impossible for me to form relationships that were with somebody that I could trust and to be able to be trusted in relationships. So that's just an example. You may have your own thoughts on this, but definitely when we look at our experiences and we look at our thoughts and feelings and beliefs and everything that happens to our nervous system at that time, it seems like a good way to respond at the time, but this kind of response, when we carry it through life, is maladaptive and doesn't really help us or others. And so, yes, when we have a problem, when we have something that we believe is an issue or a problem, we tend to complain or blame or feel guilty about it. If we're taking on any of the responsibility, we shame ourselves, we have rage and hopelessness, and we sometimes just avoid the feeling altogether and kind of push it aside and just try to suppress it and deny it, and we worry about it. And we often will find a way to be right about it no matter what. Or maybe we'll try something else. Maybe we'll act out on somebody. So these are all the things that we humans do with our thoughts and beliefs. I want to introduce to you a teacher named Byron Katie. You might have heard about her. And if you haven't, there's lots of great stuff online about Byron Katie and something that she created through all the craziness of her own mind, something that she calls the work. And it's a very simple process that I invite you to go on this journey with me today and do yourself. Try it out and see if you like it. So I'm going to ask you right now to find a persistent thought or judgment that you may have, not about yourself, but about somebody else. Okay? I can't talk anymore. A persistent thought or a judgment. Okay? Could be something really simple. Could be something really old. Could be something quite new. Could be something you've had for a while. Okay? So now find that thing, and maybe it's way back here in the vault. So we'll just kind of bring it around into the light and just hold it here and look at it. So ask yourself the question about that thought or judgment. Is it true? Interesting. That this thought or this judgment that I've had all this time and that I think every day on a regular basis, what a weird question. Is it true? Okay, let's say, of course it is. Silly question for you to ask, Rebekah. So the next question we ask ourselves is, am I positive that it's true? Oh my goodness, okay. So your answer to this might be, well, yes, of course it is. Okay, that's fine. And so these questions are not about asking you to change anything. We're just taking it out of the darkness and bringing it into the light to have a look at it here. Now, this next question is a hard one to look at. How do I behave or treat people when I believe this thought? How do I behave? How do I treat people? Maybe even how do I treat myself when I believe this thought? And then who would I be without this thought? Again, not asking you to change or get rid of the thought. It's just, if you could imagine, what would it be like if you didn't have this thought? Interesting, yes? This is hard and humbling work. And let me tell you something about what I was speaking about earlier about my mother and leaving, and how I always believed that she had abandoned me. Okay, so this is my thing, that I believe that she abandoned me. Okay, just hold that in your mind for a sec. What we do when we do this untangling of the mess of our thoughts is we challenge ourselves to look at the history, we look at the story behind our thinkings and belief. belief systems, and there's a payoff to it. Yes, it's hard and it's humbling, but we can feel liberated when we get a little bit of distance from this thinking and these beliefs we hold so tightly. It liberates us from what takes up a lot of our psychic space. So, like I said, my belief about my mother was that she abandoned me. And there's a wonderful thing that Byron Katie has in addition to, and this is in the some of the resources that you'll see that have been provided in the chat. Besides the 4 questions, she has something called the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And in this, she has a way of helping us turn around. She calls it a turnaround of the judgment or the belief that we had on somebody else. And so I've done this by looking at, okay, here I am looking at this belief that I've had for so long that my mother abandoned me. And when I turn that around, guess what it is? I abandoned myself. I abandoned myself by believing that my mother abandoned me. So there's been a part of me through so much of my life that actually abandoned myself because I believed that I was unworthy. And you know what I also did is I abandoned her. I abandoned my caring and love of her because of my belief that she abandoned me. So I'm, again, just throwing out something personal to you so that you can see how this might be possible for you to use this. And the good thing about doing this work and doing any kind of work when we check in rather than checking out is that as we check in and we look at our thoughts often, we look at our feelings often, we check in with our bodies, this is how we gauge our healing. Because now, when I look at that belief, my mother abandoned me, all I feel is tenderness for myself. All I feel is tenderness for my mother. And all I start to do is understand why. I start to understand the why of why she behaved that way. And this is how we gauge our feelings and we gauge our healing, is to see that what bothered us before either doesn't bother us as much or doesn't bother us as intensely or doesn't bother us as often. And that's how healing happens. That's how healing of anything happens. So what used to scare me and enrage me and crush me has less power now because I have examined it. Quantum physics teaches us that even an experiment that's being observed changes the outcome of that experiment. That's pretty deep stuff. Okay, but you know what? Maybe you get to the end of this whole 4 questions things that Rebekah asked you to do, and you go, you know what? It's true. It's true. Nothing changed. I still have this judgment. So what? That's fine. You don't have to change anything. All I invite you to do is just to notice what you think, what you feel, how it feels to carry that judgment around with you, and to just be a little bit curious, to be willing, and just to let it be or let it change. It's okay. You're okay. I'm okay. All we do is we take the time to check in and inquire. Another smart person I love to quote is Brene Brown. And this is about owning our story, because what we think and what we believe is our beliefs and our story. And there's probably good reasons for it. And it's based on our experiences and it's based on thoughts and emotions. And we created this and we have the power to change it too. So Brene says, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy and the experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. And isn't that true? Thank you, Brene. All right. So as to be expected, we have a little bit of talking about Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine, and the spleen. So you're thinking, what has my spleen got to do with it? So the spleen and stomach are part of the earth element, Okay, and the earth element controls our thinking and our groundedness and our centeredness. And it has a time of day. When we first started this broadcast at 11 a.m., that was the very end of the spleen time of day. Right now we're in heart time, so heart comes after spleen. Isn't that nice? So spleen and stomach are pair organs. What they are responsible for the earth element, and overthinking or worry is what hurts our spleens and our earth element. The time of year is late summer and the color is yellow. So we're going to do a fun little thing to nourish our spleens and stomach. And if you don't know where your spleen is, it's on your left upper quadrant of your abdomen. So if you find your rib cage on the left side and you put your hands over there, that will be right around where your spleen is, underneath the rib cage there. And the earth element, actually, when we ground ourselves and are in the present moment, that helps control our fear. So we get right here, we put our hands on that left side of our belly. I invite you to close your eyes, feel your seat in your chair, feel your feet on the ground. We're going to breathe in yellow to our spleens, and we're going to breathe out a funny sound. Okay, and just allow your jaw to relax, your tongue will float to the roof of your mouth. We're going to breathe in through our nose and breathe in yellow to our spleen. Okay, here we go. Yellow, sunshine, a daffodil, an egg yolk, a sunflower. And we breathe out, whew. It's almost like phew, right? Let's do it 2 more times. So breathing in yellow. Whew. And 1 more time. Whew. Here you go. Little self-care for your spleen. Getting into the earth element here and grounding ourselves. All right. Now I want to talk about DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and the wisdom of the dialectic and the skills for DBT therapy. And I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about Marsha Linehan, who is the founder and developer of DBT therapy, which is used primarily for borderline personality disorder, but it's used for other kind of mental illness types of challenges like depression. So here's the skills that really help balance our mental health. Mindfulness, including meditation, observation, awareness, distress tolerance, becoming present in the moment and feeling what's going on with us and finding ways to take care of ourselves, emotional regulation, our acceptance and willingness to see both sides of something, to be able to feel 2 things at the same time. And let me give you another example. So my anger at my mother, my resentment towards my mother, and my deep desire to be loved by her and to feel love for her. Those 2 things can exist at the same time. In fact, when we polarize ourselves to only feel one thing at a time, that's where we start to get our nervous systems really brittle and rigid. And so the more that we can allow ourselves to look at both sides of an equation, the better it is for us and our nervous systems. And then finally, interpersonal effectiveness, reinforcing what works, celebrating feeling good, noticing when we're healing, checking in with ourselves, and evaluating how we're feeling. So remember, let me just go back for a second, that the first part, the first skill in dialectical behavioral therapy is mindfulness. And this is Dr. Marsha Linehan. She is a recently retired professor of psychology at University of Washington. And she herself had borderline personality disorder, and developed dialectical behavioral therapy and has shared that with the world magnificently. And she says on meditation that there's never a good time for mindfulness, but there's never a bad time. Mindfulness is one of those things you simply do, because if you practice being aware, completely open to the universe, just exactly as it is, you will transform your life in time. So that's what Dr. Linehan says about meditation. And she's speaking from personal experience. In fact, I have a funny story. I met Dr. Linehan when I was doing a book reading for my own book in the U District. And there she was. And I actually didn't know who she was at the time. I didn't recognize her. But she came up afterwards and bought one of my books. And I'd noticed her throughout my talk there and reading that she was whispering with her friend and elbowing and nodding a lot and looking very engaged. And I thought, oh, this is great. So she came up and generously bought a book, and I signed it for her. And she introduced herself and said, oh, yeah, I write books too. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. We should have coffee sometime. And then afterwards, my husband said, oh, it was Marshall Linehan there that you were talking to. And I was like, anyways, yeah, what a wonderful person. And, you know, what she says about meditation, I would say meditation has been one of the things that's helped me most in my recovery and in my healing. I started doing it where I could close my eyes for like 30 seconds. And I was just like, why would a person want to do this? It's uncomfortable. But like Brene Brown says, be uncomfortable. So I thought, oh, there must be something to it. And I kept going with it. And now it's probably 20 years or so that I've been doing meditation daily. And I've worked myself up to the point where I can sit down for 30 minutes with my eyes shut and be still. My cat always comes and sits in my lap. So I think cats like it when you're nice and still too, and warm. And this is something that's helped me so much in my life and has tremendously helped heal my nervous system. A little bit more on meditation is, these are some different quotes from different people, including the Dalai Lama and Friedrich Nietzsche and, you know, smart people like that meditation is called bare attention. Basically, all we're doing is sitting and giving our attention to our breathing. And we're gazing inward rather than bringing our attention outward. It's like a type of prayer in a way. It's like we're just sincerely sitting there with our attention. And we're silently observing with our eyes shut. That's how I do it with my eyes shut. And it's a way of, it's almost like a mental hygiene of cleansing our psyches. And very healing to the nervous system. There's a lot of studies. I'm going to share one with you in a minute on how our nervous systems and our brain chemistry actually is healed by doing mindfulness meditation. And it's just a chance to be you, and it's just for you. So it's a way to give back to ourselves where our attention's not all going outward, it's going inward. And you can find studies all over the internet, but Harvard Neuroscience did one that I think is really telling on mindfulness meditation and brain chemistry. So what they did is they got 16 stressed people to do 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation. First, they did a little bit of training to learn how, and then they did the mindfulness meditation for 8 weeks. Before they started that, an MRI was taken of their brains, especially looking at two parts of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus, both of which are very much impacted by chronic stress. So the amygdala gets overexcited and enlarged. The hippocampus tends to get shrunken. That's where our gray matter, a lot of our processing of thoughts and emotions is. And so after 8 weeks of this daily 20 to 30 minutes of meditation, a new MRI was done on these 16 subjects. And the amygdala was back to a normal size, and the hippocampus was increased in size with gray matter and feeling of well-being with these subjects. So this is just, like I said, one of the many studies on how mindfulness meditation is just good for you. Okay, so here's the part that I'm the most excited about today and a little nervous about too. In Chinese medicine, the earth element is I'm just looking at my other device here, is the spleen and stomach represent the earth element. And the sound hu is the earth element sound. But for the spleen itself, what the spleen loves to do is sing. And I love to sing too. So I'm going to teach you a song. And Never before has this been done by me online in a webinar, so you get to have some fun. So this is a very simple song. I'm going to sing it to you. There's 3 parts to it, and then I've got a little recording so you'll be able to hear it all together. So the words, like if we were in a great big room and there was 300 of us in the same room, I would divide the room into 3 parts, and each part of the room would sing a part of this song. Here's the first part. It just goes, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, and you can choose any of these parts because we can't hear each other sing. So hopefully you can just do this on your own. That's part 1. Part 2 is, when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. Fun, hey? And we just keep singing. So that you'd go breathe in, breathe out, and you'd keep on doing that over and over. And then the second part, when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. The third part has the same words, but it's a little bit different. It goes, when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. Cool, hey? All right, here we go. I got my machine going here, so we're gonna breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Keep going. Breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. Here's the next part. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. Amazing. You're doing it. When I breathe out love. Okay. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. That's it. Hope you liked it. Hope you'll carry that with you today and have some fun with it. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, all I can say is, wow, that is amazing. I knew you were a singer, and that is amazing. So I'm sure it's never been done before in any webinar. And what is the device that I've seen that on, you know, my kids find videos and such where people record over their things. What is the
It's called Loopy. It's an app
Loopy.
that you can find and put on your phone. And you know, I'm really a rookie at this. The online choirs that I take part in are experts at doing this. This is the first time I've done it with anybody online, and so thank you for humoring me and doing it.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah. Well, and so an interesting question in the chat just now, can we somehow isolate that and put it somewhere? I will speak with our team after we're done, because we do have some magical editing things we do behind the scenes once we are done with our recording, but we will maybe see if we can do that and post that. I also think, no, okay, no. Okay, I think someone had a raised hand, maybe not. So we don't have any formal questions. So I did want to ask if anybody had any questions and they wanted to, you know, ask at this time. we can do that. Or if there's other stuff that you were thinking that you wanted to kind of cover in case we didn't have time. But I don't know, it's a pretty amazing way to wrap up Friday, I have to say.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, well, if nobody has questions, that's fine. We need time to integrate this kind of stuff. I know that I threw a lot at you today, and it's a lot to kind of take in with our nervous systems. So, yeah.
We do have one. Thank you,
Okay.
Tim. How long to meditate before you felt an effect? I think I'll let you, yeah. Well, you see how you want to answer that.
Well, thanks for the question. If you're talking about when I first started meditating like 20 years ago, I would say after the first time I sat down and actually really gave my time and attention to myself, when I actually intended to give my time and attention to myself in that way, I felt something different right away. I felt this tenderness for myself that I'd never felt before. And then as far as, the meditation and feeling how my nervous system would change, I think as my thoughts about myself have changed over the decades now, I feel something every day. I feel a change every day.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder sometimes if people, I tried meditation and it didn't work. It's like, well, how many times? And what I really appreciate when I've tried to embark upon these things as well is that, you think you're not doing it right. It's all this judgment, stuff that you have discussed before. And that it's, even the most astute gurus that people look up to say, oh, my mind's a mess. I sit down and all sorts of things happen. So I think it's sort of thinking about your expectations and, are you doing it right? Are you doing it the way you're supposed to? And it's sort of like, it's sort of needs to leave out that judgment and just, what is it? Can you just find that stillness? And it might look different for every person. It totally does. Right. I mean, so I think it's just comparing.
Yeah, well, welcome to being human, right?
Right.
This is part of how, like, if you've ever had a judgment that somebody was a tyrant, for instance, right? And then we go, I wonder if I'm a tyrant. I actually think that we all are tyrants in our own ways because we want what we want and we want it now, right? We want it right now. And so we want to do something like closing our eyes and we want relief and changes right now because if we don't, then it doesn't work. And this is a type of cynicism that comes from feeling disappointment, from having crushed hopes. And so it's just another way we just notice that. We just notice it in the most gentle, tender way that, yes, this is what I'm expecting of myself. I'm pressuring myself to be different than I am instead of just noticing that this is how I feel right now. And that's the whole point of meditation. It's not to change anything. Right? Just to tenderly accept who you are and what you are right now.
Yeah. I like that idea that people talk about just noticing and you're watching, that thought came by again. Oh, there it is. Not being surprised when things that have been since maybe age 3 or 6 or other things that these run deep. So they're not likely to just disappear. We do have a few more questions, so I want to make sure I get to those now. So thanks everyone for doing that. I think Vidya was first and then got into the Q&A. What is the difference between meditation and mindfulness? And in fact, we had a similar question on our Wednesday webinar. What's the difference between mindfulness and, it might have been this exact same question, but it was, so love to see how you would describe that difference.
You know what? I knew somebody was going to ask this question and I don't even know the answer to it myself. So sorry. I think it's a matter of semantics, actually, that mindfulness, to me, that's an ironic thing to call meditation because I don't want my mind to be full. I want it to be empty, right? Mindfulness is just a way of awareness. Let's just call it awareness. And we're observing, like Christina was saying, that a thought floats by, and Pema Chodron says, like a cloud going through the sky. We just notice it in as neutral a way as we can allow ourselves to be. Like, you know, when you're in the woods and you look at a tree and you go, wow, look at the beautiful leaves, and you just kind of merge with what you're observing. So this is the thing. We're just observing something from a kind of almost the stepped back. It's the backward step of being in this place of being it, but also observing it.
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. And if in your mind you're Buddha sitting under a tree, and because you're not achieving that, you're not doing it right. Meditation, I know there's walking meditation. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about doing, you know, mindfulness as you're doing the dishes. Like, there's so many ways that people can do those kinds of things. And I think that it's just really, it's personal. Meditation could be a tool. It could be a mindset, right? So, I mean, it's semantics in some ways, but I think, yeah, it's probably a never ending question that people have. So it's not surprising.
It's deep and it's complicated, right? Just like our minds are, right? Everything, there's not one answer for things. So we like to, as our human way of thinking, that we're going to settle things all into, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is it, this is not it. And there's a lot of gray to just, you know, settle into.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is one that maybe we can just get from you by email and put on our website, but I know this cannot be the first person that was very interested, I know from your very first session, around Eastern philosophy and the body and the connections to seasons and colors and times of the day. I mean, you know, you've named things that just really blow everybody away, I think. So if you have some things, maybe we can just make sure when we email that this is the recording's ready, the product's up, and we can put those in. But do you have anything that just comes to mind for, like, okay, if you want to just start with some of this, is there any thing that comes to mind around those connections that you could share?
Well, as I said, you know, a lot of how I think and move in the world is filtered through East Asian medicine. So anything that, you know, if that interests you, and that way of looking at the mind and body, and then some of the references to Gabor Mate's work and Robert Sapolsky's work. And, you know, the next session that I do here in 2 weeks is going to be called Head, Heart, and Gut. So I'm going to be focusing on our knowing of what we know in our minds, in our hearts, and in our guts, and how those things can be integrated together. So that may be another good one to tune into, because I will be looking more at these sounds and colors and using the 5 elements to integrate all these different parts of ourselves.
Here's a very deep one that I imagine many of us can connect with. After deep diving into our emotions, and we find something is true, and this truth is something negative or heartbreaking. You have been the subject, a victim of, or something atrocious, the anger that we have for that other person or organization. What do we do with that anger? I'm thinking of a book in my mind, but I'd love to hear what you might say.
You know, I know that I felt a lot of anger at people in my life that have hurt me. And I also understand that I've turned that anger in on myself. And I've gotten a lot of help through mental health counseling and all of the different support that I've gotten in my life. So there's lots of great things to read, lots of great people to reference, and I also suggest having somebody really good to talk to, like a counselor that you can sit down with on a regular basis and discuss things with. Also, writing has been a very great tool for me. When I wrote my book, it's a memoir, so that itself was very healing for me. So I send you lots of blessings. I know what it's like to feel a lot of pain and anger and resentment, and this too shall pass. It's It doesn't need to be repressed. It doesn't need to be avoided. It can just be gently held and supported when we have the right support around us.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. It's a real thing, and I imagine, you know, most of us have been stuffing it down, and then it squeaks out, and it comes out in ways that are not helpful, and yet it's not going to disappear immediately, right? And so finding those tools that are helpful to sort of work through it, but it'll revisit us again, I imagine, and hopefully we have some tools. Sorry, so in the Q&A, I put a book in there. This is the thing that came to my mind. It's called Working with Anger by an author, Thich Chodron, and I wouldn't say I've memorized it, but it's the first thing that popped into my mind when someone asked about that. There's a lot of great resources out there, and I think there's a number of multi-pronged ways I think that support could be offered for there. We do have one last question I wanted to get to, since I mentioned it too. Do you recommend any form of moving meditation? And I think that's, you know, for some folks, sitting still does not work, right? And so they want to find a way to be more mindful as they are doing something else.
Yeah. Let me just say one more thing about the anger thing, and then I want to address this. So also be aware that anger can come out as different emotions. It can cover up different emotions. Often anger is covering up fear. So that's why it's always good to look deeper when it comes to what emotion might be right there on the surface. And, you know, meditation for me, I went to a Vipassana retreat where you had to sit for 10 hours a day for 10 days when I was 17. And that really didn't work for me. It was really hard when I was that age, for sure. And so I didn't really start meditating sitting for many years. I used to run a lot. I think that running can be an amazing meditation if you are that way athletically inclined. But what I also do as part of my mindfulness is I do something called Qigong. And Qigong is a type of meditation too. It actually means energy work. And some of the energy work that we've done during these sessions is kind of more internal, but also there's a type of Qigong that's external, and it's more like Tai Chi. There are movements, there are specific movements in Qigong sequences. So that I do. I also do, and Qigong is actually a part of martial arts. So I also do karate and Aikido. And so those things, anything that we do mindfully can be meditative. Riding a bike can be meditative. Anything where there's deep breathing can be really helpful for us. So yeah, you know, the world's your oyster. Just do it with mindfulness and with awareness, and you're doing yourself some real good.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, and for all the comments and all the interactions. I'm really glad. I put another book recommendation in the chat, but you know, I'm still a novice. Absolutely no claim of expertise here, but I keep thinking if you buy enough books, someday it'll all sink in.
You're so modest, Christina. Really.
Oh no!
Awesome.
It's but anyway. So thank you. I'm glad we were able to have some questions come through. Just another reminder, Reggie will put in the chat the final ask around doing the evaluation. We really appreciate it and hearing the feedback from you. And so thank you for your time. If you aren't connected to us and aren't getting our direct newsletter in your inbox and you would like that, please, you can sign up for that. We won't send you, you know, multiple things a week, we promise. And we have our website and we have some social stuff. I don't really know about that, but we have people for that because I don't do any of the social media, but people are out there doing stuff. So we're happy to share our events in whatever way works for you. And just want to again say thank you to Rebekah and to everyone who took your time on a Friday amidst all the things going on today. It's been very, very helpful. So thanks again, Rebekah. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.
Keep breathing.
Yes.
Thank you.